Hello, everyone. Happy Monday to you all. I'm going to wait for just a little bit, give people some time to log in. I'm going to put a comment here. I'm putting a conversation question in the comments here. Hi, Mom and Dad. All right, I just put a question in the comments. I'd love to see what your answers are. Just something to get us talking a little bit today. Kind of related to what I'm going to talk about, but kind of not. Just something to stir up some conversation. If you can think of something. Hi. The best thing your boss ever did for you was they went on vacation. If I'm understanding you right. If not, it's still funny. Um, Best thing my boss ever did for me was go on a vacation. That's good. All right, if you're just joining us, I put a question in the comments here. What's the best thing a boss has ever done for you? So if you can think of something, chime in. Right. Oh, all right. There we go. Realize I'm wearing a blue shirt tonight and it really kind of blends in with the wall, so you just probably see very white, actually kind of red face, but I'm awake. I'm awake. It's been a very long day, been a very mentally strenuous day. Not a bad day, just a long day, a tiring day. So I'm halfway through my coffee talk beverage already. I had to go with hot chocolate tonight because I was afraid I would not get to sleep. Dad says gave me a challenging job. Okay. Okay. So I went to make my hot chocolate for tonight, and I was thinking, man, tonight is a night that calls for marshmallows. It's just, I need some marshmallows in my hot chocolate. Went and, oh, that's a good one. Trusted me to run his office. So I go to get some marshmallows, open up the cupboard, find a big old bag of jet puffed marshmallows. And I don't know if my husband could hear me because he was upstairs. I was like, oh, yes. And then I looked at the bag and the expiration date was for July 2019. So I couldn't use them. I had to throw away a brand new bag because they were already starting to melt inside. So then he comes down and I'm telling him, I was like, I just want chocolate. I just want chocolate. And then I realized I'm having a cup of hot chocolate. So it's just a Monday thing. It's just me being goofy. So anyway, so tonight I'm going to keep it real simple. It's kind of, well, I'd say lighthearted, but last week I kind of talked about connecting the dots and because I was talking about, I think it was last week. It's been a long week. I think I was talking about the type of counseling where you're connecting the dots and looking at life as like a sequence of story plot lines. And so I kind of wanted to do that a little bit tonight about my story more recently, and I titled tonight's topic "What's Next." I don't know about you, but there's a couple different ways that we could look at this when we say "What's next." I was talking to one person who had lost within the course of a few years had lost a brother, a sister, and a father. Um, and it was a big loss. And when I asked them, how they dealt with it, they said one of the things for them was there was always a thought in the back of my mind of what's going to happen next. Like just waiting for the next thing. What's next? What's going to happen now? So there's a thought of great, what's next? What's going to happen now? Or what's the next thing that's going to fall apart? Or what's next? But then there's also a concept of what's next that's like, okay, what's next in my path? Like, what's the next step that I take? And so for me, I'm kind of touch on both, at least in my story. Um, so it for me, it all kind of goes back to, I think sometimes growing up we have this plot line for ourselves of by the time I'm this age, I'm going to graduate from college, I'm going to get married by this age, have kids by this age, do this, and be ready to retire when I'm 45. No. Um, but for me, a lot of those things lined up until it came to the having kids part. That's always been something that I've talked about, been very open about. Um, that has not gone according to plan. Many times in life, it has left me feeling like I am behind schedule. I'm not part of the group. I'm not. I fall in a different group. People don't know how to relate to me. Different things like that. But so when I got to that point that wasn't happening, I kind of got to the point of okay, this isn't happening for me. What's next? So I started my first master's degree, and initially I started it because I wanted to. Um, Sorry, had some comments pop up there. I wanted to be able to be fully prepared. I wanted to be a guidance counselor, and it was actually something that a position opened at my school that I was currently at, and they needed someone to be a guidance counselor. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to start that track. And it fills in some time, it fills in some holes. So I'll have something to do. And that'll take me 2 to 3 years. So I started working on that, and then probably 11 credits into that program. Within 2 years, I was offered the job as the senior administrator of the school where I was at. So then I decided, okay, now I really need to be prepared for that job. So now I need to change from school counseling to supervision and administration. And so I went ahead and I finished that degree. And I thought, surely by the time I finish that, we're going to have a family ready to go. That didn't happen. And I had just finished my master's degree, and I already knew that where I was at, this was 2 years after it was my second year of being a senior administrator. And I already knew I wasn't supposed to stay there. There were just clear signs to me. Um, I also had very unhealthy ways at that point of processing. I had very very lofty expectations of myself, and I felt like it was rightly so. But I put such pressure on myself to perform, and that when I didn't meet my own standards of performance, I just beat myself up. And there were no excuses given. Um, when you're in leadership, in my mind there was no excuse for any type of misstep. You take all of the blame. And there is a certain element of truth to that. It does fall on your shoulders, but at the end of the day, people underneath you can fail, and not everything is your fault. But I took everything very, very close. I held it very close, and after 2 years, I was burnt out, and some things were just happening that God was showing me. This was obviously not what I was supposed to be doing at that time. And so, whether I did it at the right time or whether I didn't, I don't know. Because I just did it. I announced that I was going to be resigning for the next school year, and I didn't have a job. I didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do. At the same time, my husband had taken another job somewhere else, and so I just thought I'm going to try to get in at the school or the church there, and it was a good Christian school that it was growing, had a lot of potential, had a lot of things in place that I would have wanted to implement. Um, but I went about 6 months without a job. No leads. I interviewed for a couple things, just didn't pan out, and it was like, okay, God, what are you doing through this? And during this time, I continued to beat myself up over, man, you were just a failure. You couldn't even stick it out. You couldn't. So I was really, really at a low point in my own morale at that point in time. So I'm going through all of these things, and then I get a job at the school I was just at for 6 years, and so then after we'd been there for a couple of years, at the school I was just at, um, actually I think it was just for 1 year, we decided, okay, now we're going to start going down the road towards adoption. Something we had always been interested in. I did get hired on at the school there, as a kindergarten aide. So I went from being a senior administrator to a kindergarten aide, and then I taught science for 2 years, and then I became the registrar for three. And it's it's really interesting when I look at some of those things, like what was the purpose of my teaching middle school science. Like I am not a science teacher. I knew stuff about biology, I knew stuff about kinesiology and physiology, but earth science, physical science, life science I could do. But those were times of my life that I really had to rely on God's strength, first of all, and find creativity in ways that, I mean, I brought in my rollerblades to do experiments. I mean, I learned the hard way from a kid who kind of tricked me into letting him do a dry ice bomb. I did not know it was a dry ice bomb at the time. We were doing science experiments, and he said he had some extra left over, and he had done it at home with his parents, and it was safe to do. And so I went with them outside and a couple other kids, and then he shook this bottle up with dry ice in it, and he set it down, and they all said, "Run!" And I'm thinking, why? And then it went boom, and everybody came out of their classrooms looking out. I'm surprised I didn't get fired after that one. There were a lot of interesting moments, a lot of different little pieces, um, that were during that part of my life that I wouldn't have necessarily anticipated. And so I'm teaching science. We decide to start the adoption process. And so I'm thinking, okay, now these empty gaps are going to be filled. This is the track I'm supposed to be on. And we get going, and 2 years into that process, would look like we're going to be, getting everything ready to go. He's going to come home to live with us. And if you've read any of my blogs, if you've watched any of my videos, you know some of that story. It just all fell apart. I mean, if you have ever watched what you thought was supposed to be just disintegrate in front of you, that's very, very disheartening. And maybe you have. Maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. That you're watching it and you're thinking, how can this possibly be? God, did I hear you wrong? Because we were so committed, and this was, God had worked so many things out, and it's like, what are you doing, God? I don't understand this. And man, I was angry. I mean, these are all parts of the grieving process. When everything fell through, and going through that course of grieving and seeking my own professional counseling, there's been lots of things that when I look at my life over the last, I could say 6 years, from about the time I went to the new school that I just finished at, to my very last day, which was this past Thursday, I feel like I'm a completely different person. I've learned how to advocate for myself. I have learned that I do matter. I've learned that um, success isn't just all dependent upon one person. I've learned that we have to work with all different types of people. I've learned lots of valuable lessons, and I've learned that nothing is wasted. All these little stops, teaching middle school science, being a kindergarten aide. Um, there was a stint in time before in my life when I was in between jobs where I was cleaning people's houses, scrubbing rich people's toilets, and I'm thinking, where does this fall in on all of this grand spectrum? All these, it's like, if you're not into stargazing or not into looking at the star maps or whatever, you can go out and see all these stars and not see how they actually line up to make the constellations. It's just like a bunch of scattered stars, and you're like, how in the world does that line up to make a constellation? It's hard to make sense of it all because we don't have that perspective. We don't have that guide that puts it all together. But every now and then, God does let us see that glimpse of things running together. So, um, so we have the master's degree, the first one that I did. Then I left the job that I worked for the master's degree on to go to a school as a kindergarten aide and eventually teach and then end up as a registrar for 3 years. And then I start my master's degree in counseling. And within a year of that, because I started it this past fall, um, my life has taken a big turn. So I wanted to tell you about what's next for me. So, we've been in this whole pandemic and things have been crazy. And in my degree program, there is a 100-hour practicum that I have to do with counseling, and there is a 600-hour internship. Well, I was looking for a placement for my practicum, my 100-hour practicum, which I was hoping to be able to do sometime in the summer, this next summer, or even in the spring. So they tell you to start making those contacts early because it could take several months to get all the paperwork lined up and everything for a site because they have to make an agreement and everything with them. So I came across this flyer that I had gotten 2 years before when we were going to a training for our home study and for the adoption process. And I had saved this flyer for a therapeutic foster care program. And I used it as a bookmark in a sensory processing disorder book. And I had kept that for 2 years. And I remember looking at that when I first started my program and seeing that I was going to need a practicum. And I thought, this would be a good thing, a good place. They use the trust-based relational intervention, which I've studied a lot about for our home study and how to deal with kids that have trauma and foster parenting and all of these other things. And I saw that this place used this trust-based relational intervention. I thought this would be a great place to do a practicum. So at the beginning of June, I reached out to them. And I reached out to the person who was in charge of program quality because she was a licensed professional counselor. And I thought, oh, she could supervise the practicum. So I emailed her and I said, hey, this is my passion for TBRI. And, I like what I see of your program. I'm wondering if you take interns or if I could potentially do my practicum there. She emails me back and says, well, I have to pass this along to the lady who does the interns. Okay. So in the meantime, while I was waiting to hear something back, I kept checking out this organization, looking on their webpage, and saw they have lots of opportunities to volunteer. And I thought, you know what? This seems like a great organization. if I can't do my practicum there, at least I could volunteer because they're dealing with kids in foster care. They're, like this could be what helps me connect back into this whole adoption thing, because we're still currently looking for a child. So I emailed the volunteer coordinator and shared my passion, shared a little bit of my story. And wouldn't you know that the lady who organizes the interns is the same lady who organizes the volunteers. So she gets an email from me, the first one I sent about my practicum, and then she gets an email from me about volunteering. And she sees that it's the same person, and she sees the passion and the desire I have. So she asked me if she can call me to talk to me about the organization and volunteering. We set up a Zoom call, and she said to me, I didn't know where the conversation was going. She said, "I've got so much to talk to you about, um, and this might sound a little crazy, but looking at the things that would be under your practicum, a lot of these things fall under a job description of someone who just told us they're leaving at the end of June. And I really think that you should pray about applying for this job." And I was thinking, are you kidding me? We're in the summer, getting ready to start a school year where we're trying to do home-based learning and regular learning. There is no, like, what in the world? What in the world? I can't. Oh my. And she told me at the end of our conversation, she said, I feel like I just had coffee with a friend. I think that we could work very well together. So I think you should really, really pray about this. So I did, and in the days that followed, I found the more that I prayed about it, the more that I just wanted that job. The more that I researched and saw that this organization actually strives to keep families together, provides support to be able to keep families together, to keep kids out of foster care. Um, and the more that I learned about the organization, man, my heartbeat just kind of became more for that organization. Was waiting every day to see the job description roll out so I could hit apply. I had my resume ready. I was ready to go. And so as soon as it came out, I had it sent in, and I just prayed and I just prayed and I just prayed and waited and anxious. And before you know it, I had gone through 2 interviews, and then they offered me the position. So today I just started the first day of my new job as a family support coordinator. And, very, very overwhelming. There's so much information. Um, and, but, even though there's so much information, my heart is just amazed at what God has done, because I look back over almost 10 years, and I look and I see how all of these little pit stops and how all of these little dots that I thought would never connect, cleaning rich people's toilets. I learned not to be above any position. There is no job that's too insignificant. I learned to give it my best no matter what I'm doing, even if people aren't watching me, because I know God is. That it's about my integrity. It's about my work ethic. It's about who I am and what I bring. And I have to tell you, today on my first day, this is why I asked about what's the best thing a boss has ever done for you. Um, I walked in today to a strengths-based organization, and one of the things they had me do ahead of time was take a strengths assessment. And so we can all look at each other's strengths and see how we actually fit together. And I'm telling you, when it's a small team of the people in my department, there's like 4 of us, and a lot of us have overlapping or very similar strengths, and some that aren't present on each other's list. And it's really just like, I think everybody is amazed on our team at how we just seem to fit with personalities so far, and strengths, and I sat on a Zoom call where people were telling me what stood out to them in my interview about me, and that was just something so totally new to me. And I I encourage you, if you're a person who's a boss or a supervisor, there is something to be said about letting your employees know how good they are and what they actually bring to the team. And it's good for other team members to be able to tell each other what they bring to the team. It was just so affirming to my heart. It was something that I really, really needed, because I so often doubt my abilities. I so often doubt what I can contribute. And I'm working on that. But being in an environment that is strength based and is building that trust, so when it's, hey, we fell short, let's work together. Let's see how we can make each other better. It's not that you're in trouble. It's not that we're here to sharpen each other. The Bible says we're like iron. Iron sharpens iron. We're supposed to sharpen each other, to keep each other on point. So, this was just, I just had to share, really, this whole coffee talk, this whole lessons from the waiting room is about sharing our stories. And I think that it's so important. I know for me, I can tend to be a little more negative, and I feel like you need to hear the good that God is doing in my life. There is somebody out there tonight or tomorrow, whenever you watch this, that is clinging to the answer to prayer of someone else so that they will have enough faith to keep trusting. And, there's sometimes we need other people's help to remember that God is good, because there's times that we can't see it in the middle of our situations. So if you're in a spot tonight where you're one of those off dots on your plot line, trust that it's not by accident. You may not get to see it on this side of your lifetime, but you can trust that there is some fitting place for that dot. It's building something in your life right now that is preparing you to be exactly who you need to be and where you need to be when you need to be there. And that is something that I have seen firsthand, in my own life. What I want to do is I want to open up the floor for some comments, some questions. If you have questions for me, I would love to hear those. I would love to see some interactions. What do you have for me? What thoughts can you add to this? What's something you've seen God do in your life that could be a lifeline? Whether it's this week or in the last year, what's something a way you've seen God connect your dots? There's somebody out here tonight or tomorrow, whenever you watch this live video, that needs this. And so I'm wondering if we can throw out a lifeline. And while you type out something, I wanted to share the words to a song, by Danny Goki. It's called Haven't Seen It Yet. I can't share it. Maybe if my trusty sidekick is watching, you know who you are, Richard Parsons. If you're watching, maybe you can post a link to the song Haven't Seen It Yet by Danny Goki. Maybe you can put that in the comments. But the words go like this. Have you been praying and you still have no answers? Have you been pouring out your heart for so many years? Have you been hoping that things would have changed by now? Have you cried all the faith you have through so many tears? Don't forget the things that He's done before, and remember He can do it all once more. It's like the brightest sunrise waiting on the other side of the darkest night. Don't ever lose hope. Hold on and believe. Maybe you just haven't seen it yet. You're closer than you think you are, only moments from the break of dawn. All His promises are just up ahead. Maybe you just haven't seen it yet. He had the solution before you had the problem. He sees the best in you when you feel at your worst. So in the questioning, don't ever doubt his love for you, because it's only in his love that you'll find a breakthrough. And then it goes to the chorus. It's like the brightest sunrise waiting on the other side of the darkest night. Don't ever lose hope. Hold on and believe. Maybe you just haven't seen it yet. He's moving with a love so deep. Hallelujah for the victory. Good things are coming even when we can't see. We can't see it yet, but we believe that he is moving with a love so deep. Hallelujah for the victory. Good things are coming even when we can't see it, but we believe it. So if you get a chance to listen to this song, I hope that it'll be an encouragement. It really just kind of wraps up what I've been talking about tonight. I didn't know if I would feel like doing something tonight because honestly, I'm just tired. I started 2 classes today as well. But God has given me so much energy in the last several days, an ability to focus, to get work done ahead of time. And I just really feel like I am starting to see my own personal breakthrough. And it's been a while. I didn't know if I, it's hard in the middle of things to know if you're even going to see a breakthrough. You just want to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you get so used to not seeing a breakthrough that it's hard. It really is. So if you're there tonight, please just keep going one day at a time. That's all you can do. And just if you don't have the faith to keep going, just go off of the back of somebody who's experienced and has seen God's goodness and who has seen God provide, and connect those dots. You can go off my faith for now if that's all you can do until you can do it for yourself. And just keep praying. Keep an open line of communication with God. It's not a surprise to him that you're struggling to trust. If you are, he knows that. He knows your very frame. He knows that we are nothing more than dust because he created us out of nothing. So he knows that you're struggling to trust him. Tell him. You can have an honest conversation. There won't be anything you will ever tell him that's too much for him to hear. And he wants us to get to that point where we can have honest conversation with him and stop trying to hide or say all the right fancy words in our prayers to him. He wants us to pour out our hearts before him. Good. I see a comment here. God can still use us in the older years of our lives, and we can look back and see how God has worked in both our lives, and we are grateful to him. Keep your eyes on the Lord. That's true. God, as long as you're still here on this earth, there's still purpose. There's still a reason why you're breathing. So look for it every day. Look for a way to fulfill your purpose every single day. Anything else? Anybody else got anything you wanna say? Anything you want to contribute? Any questions that you have for me? We'll give you a minute. Coming up pretty soon here, I'm gonna have a special guest on here. We're working on cooking something up. I am learning about different ways I can do this to Facebook, whether I pre-record stuff or whether I do it live. So something will be coming soon. I'm still planning to be on next week. But hey, if you know of somebody who could use if you know of someone who could use this encouragement tonight, please pass this on to them. Refer them to Lessons from the Waiting Room, Coffee Talk with Kim. That's the whole purpose of this. That's why I do this. It is therapeutic for me. But on days that I don't feel like doing it, what also helps me keep doing it is knowing that God has given me something to say. God has given me lessons that I've learned through his teaching, and those aren't to be wasted and kept to myself. So if you can think of someone, please share this, pass this along if it could be a help to anyone. Well, I think that's gonna, thank you. I appreciate your prayers. I appreciate it, especially I got a lot to learn, and there's a lot of people right now who need extra assistance to stay together. The family is such a very important unit, and families deteriorate every day, and there are people who just need resources to be able to stay together. So I appreciate your prayers as I try to help that happen, but I have to learn all the stuff to be able to do it, learn the formalities, the paperwork, and so that is going to be, the next 3 months of my life learning how to do all of this, and I just want to do it to the best of my ability, and I just want to be able to impact the lives of others, in a great way, because God has put that desire in my heart. So thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate your thoughts, your prayers, your support. And I don't know that I'll blog this week, to be honest with you. I'll probably just do a coffee talk with Kim this next Monday. So look for that event posting. Share with your friends, please. The more people that we can get watching these, somebody needs to hear these encouraging things. So have a great night. Have a great week, everyone. And God bless you all. We'll see you next time.